Hi guys, welcome to Wednesday. Chatty Cathy here. Nice to see you again. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all your support and everything that's going on. Today's a special day and I have been studying this topic. I think the hardest of anything that I've studied so far, and I think it might make me the most upset only because we just don't know. We're not taught. We don't know. Just like the dairy and the protein. And how are you doing with your dairy? And how are you doing with your protein? How are you doing with your vision boards? Comment below. How about your first thing that you say in the morning? How are you doing with that? Please comment below. I really would love to know. And thank you all for all the texts and the love and support that way also. Your brain's favorite thing. Everybody knows that it's not good for you to eat or drink, but it is tasting so good, right? So good. There's over 100 names for this item, and I've even read over 500 names for this item. So what do you think I'm talking about? Let me tell you first that there are so many negative side effects of consuming too much of this delicacy. And it's addictive. Once you start eating the substance, it's very, very hard to stop. But once you do stop, you don't really miss it. And the things that do have this substance in it don't taste good anymore. And are you getting the real thing or the fake thing? The real thing or the lab thing? They don't have to tell you. When you do ingest or absorb these items after not having them for a while, it doesn't taste the same. It tastes bad. And then the good food that you have, just tastes even better. And yes, absorb makeup, lotions, chapsticks. Let me tell you, and I will let you know at the end of the podcast all the places that I've found this. I'm also going to give you some of the documentaries that I've watched on Netflix and some of the books that I've read also on this subject. Just email me and I will send you my whole reference page if you'd like. It's only 7 pages, but you'll be able to see what I have watched and listened to and read over the past couple weeks. So what are we talking about? What do our children get bombarded with while watching TV many, many times in an hour? And they've tried to stop that, but they can't. We're talking about sugar. We're talking about sugar. So the first question I have for you guys is, how much sugar do you get in a day? How much sugar do your children get in a day? How much do you actually think that you're getting in a day? Again, how much do you think? Number 2, what do you think of when I say the word sugar? And number 3, are there any sugars that are good for you, or are they all bad? We're going to answer all these questions in this little podcast. So to start, sugar is one of the leading causes of diseases, illnesses, and of aging. Yes, it is. I promise. Remember, I said I would never lie to you guys. And looking at the different names for these sugar, like I said, there's between 100 to 500 different names for sugars. And I'm not talking about only the white table sugar that everybody thinks about. It's scary. And the worst thing is, most people don't know those words. They don't know those names. But I'm going to tell you, absolutely. You know that saccharin has been available for over a century. 1879 is when they kind of said, oh, that tasted sweet on my hand. Aspartame came out into the 1970s. And that's also when the FDA and big food companies and the government started talking about sugar. But they were actually talking about refined sugar, which is called sucrose, right? And it's made from sugar cane and from beets. That's what they used to get sugar from. But you know what? It got way too expensive. So they had to find other ways to make our food sweet. But they went way, way overboard. They said some benefits of the sugar was, and you can comment below some more advertisements because I only put a few of them, is that it boosts your energy, gives you energy. And it's not bad for you at all. And it makes your children grow. And it's natural. And it's only 15 calories. Shut the front door. 15 calories. Name some other advertisements that I don't remember, but those are the ones that I put down. That'd be awesome. Over 20 years ago, they knew that food with high sugar contents, whether it's natural or man-made, it doesn't matter, causes many, many health problems. And over the last 10 years, it's been really affecting our children, starting when they're first born. Before they're first born, And you know what? If your mom did not eat correctly when she was pregnant, when she was pregnant, or when she was breastfeeding, what do you think went into that breast milk? Huh? Think about it. It's not a lie. It's true. So for the moderation, the middle part, intake of sugar is about 5 to 9 teaspoons a day. How much do you think we're getting? Just stay tuned to the end and I will tell you how much the researchers and scientists are saying that people are eating every single day with every single meal and every single year. It's very, very scary. But even with moderate intake, this will still cause metabolic diseases and chronic problems. Yes, it will. Your body can't handle that much sugar. It wants it, but it can't handle it. And sugar is in all foods and maybe a little bit is necessary. Or is it? It's in foods that shouldn't be sweet at all. Because of the American diet, like I said before in another podcast, 1 out of 2 people have serious sugar problems and more are on the way to those problems also. That leads to insulin resistance, which eventually could lead to diabetes. And diabetes is one of the main causes of heart attacks and strokes. And your pancreas is not happy. Your pancreas is what takes care of all that. It gives you insulin, basically. And insulin is a hormone. And all foods stimulate insulin production. But the main culprits are sugar and carbohydrates that get broken down just like sugar. They are the key drivers to insulin spikes. And you and the food companies are adding sugars to your diet, often in large amounts, and you don't even know it. Mostly sugar, the regular sugar breaks down in your intestine, in your digestive system. But with the rise in sugar or glucose, that's the same thing, the rise in sugar or glucose levels from the food that we eat, it triggers an increase in insulin levels from your pancreas. That's what your pancreas is supposed to do. And insulin pushes all the sugar into your cells and out of the bloodstream so you can have energy, right? And so carbs that get broken down in your mouth, like white breads and pastas and stuff and rices, those are actually sugars. If it breaks down in your mouth, it starts with the sugar. And then you get a vicious cycle of eating processed foods over and over again, which is usually carbs and sugar. And then you just keep increasing your insulin. And this is going to lead to possibly beta cell exhaustion. And beta cells are actually in your pancreas, and that's what makes insulin, right? And beta cell exhaustion is a contributing factor to the development of type 2 diabetes. Watch my diabetes podcast coming up soon. I'm gathering up all the information more than I know already, just so I can have a good enough podcast for you guys. Just think about it. About 74% of all the packaged foods that we eat that you eat every single day with every single meal has a lot of sugars and fake sugars in it. Insulin also influences the way that we metabolize our food. So insulin helps the body determine whether we burn fat or carbohydrates to meet our energy needs. And ultimately, it determines whether we store the food as extra sub-Q tissue in our bodies, right? It gives you energy, and then you can probably store it as fat too. So too many carbs and too much sugar gives you too much insulin, and then the body tells you to store it as fat. But we're not going to use the word fat. We're going to use the word sub-Q tissue. And when I do my fat lecture or podcast, we're still going to call it sub-Q tissue. Too much insulin floating around in your body actually makes you hungry. And it makes you hungry before you're supposed to be. Like I said, it's a vicious cycle. And then you have to eat more and more carbs and sugar. And if this continues, your liver is going to downregulate the entire fat burning process, and you are not going to lose any weight. You're going to gain weight. Excess glucose is also stored as fat. Glucose is also stored as fat. Changing some of your fuel or your energy to ketones. I'm not talking about paleo and all that though. They don't get stored as fat. They actually get excreted in the urine. So you use it and it gets out of the body. It does not stay in your system, which means you have to drink a lot of water too, right? To help everything out. You just need to change some of your sources of fuel. So watch my diabetes podcast coming up soon. Watch my extra sub-Q tissue coming out soon. And I'll let you guys know some other things. And there's also a diet lecture coming too. In 2015, the World Health Organization put dietary guidelines for sugar. And they said about 5% of our daily calories are about 26 grams. That's all we should have a day. Realistically, they said, you know what, it's probably 10%. Bull crap. What do you think it is? Comment below. Is 10% even possible with the processed foods that you are eating every single day at every single meal? And you don't even know the sugar's in there. And they don't have to tell you. Okay, calm down, Kathy, calm down. Just stay tuned for the answer and comment below what your thoughts about this already are. Everything that you consume or eat eventually turns to sugar or glucose. Now there's natural sugars. Those are called mono sugars. Glucose, fructose, and galactose. And these are used up really, really fast in the body. It gives you really, really big energy really quickly. And then you have disaccharides, which are lactose. Remember that milk. Be careful of that. Sucrose is a combination of glucose and fructose, and it's about 50-50. And sucrose is our white table sugar. It's refined, so there's really nothing left in it at all except for sweetness. Refined table sugar. Get rid of it. Absolutely get rid of it. Also get rid of your white pepper and your white flour, anything with that, any of that kind of stuff in there. Glucose, that's pure sugar. That's the most important sugar. This is what directly feeds our cells. Glucose is the food for our brain. It's our energy source for all of our organs. We love glucose, but a good glucose, right? Glucose is neither an acid or a base. It has a neutral pH, which is really, really good for our bodies. And glucose, make sure it's glucose, promotes the burning of fat, or extra sub-Q tissue, excuse me. Glucose and fructose are good sugars if they're put together with the right ratios, right? And if they're from the right sources. And they have to be balanced. Everything's a balance, remember? So fructose is actually the natural sugar that we found in fruits, that we find in some vegetables. These things actually should be eaten by themselves. They shouldn't be eaten with anything else so your body can use them up really quickly. Fructose actually acts like an acid in the body. That's another reason to eat it by itself. Fructose, gets broken down differently than glucose does in the body. Glucose gets broken down in our digestive system, but fructose gets broken down in our liver, right? And it can be stored as fat. Refined, sugary, processed foods usually add more fructose, not glucose, so it's not good for you. Fructose does not break down as readily as other sugars do. So they put it in a lot of the processed and preserved foods because it increases the shelf life of these foods. And that is the perfect place for it. They can sit on the shelves because we are not going to buy it anymore, right? We're not going to buy it anymore. Sugar is put in our food specifically to increase our appetites and to make food taste better, sweeter. And this is what the American people and our kids love now. Everything has to be sweet. No, it doesn't. It's addictive. Exclamation point. It is so addictive. Packaged foods, processed foods are manufactured to create the fastest glucose spike and the steepest crash. Why? Why do you think they do that? Why do you think the scientists go in there and study this stuff? So you'll eat again, and you'll eat sooner, and you'll eat the same thing that you ate just before, and you'll still be hungry. If you had eaten a healthy snack, that wouldn't happen, would it? No, it wouldn't, because you'd be satisfied. Food companies are required to list everything in their description box, but sugars and fake sugars are hidden in plain sight at the bottom of the nutrition labels. And you know what? We just don't know what these words are. There's a documentary on Netflix called Fed Up, F-E-D, and then Up. They list all the fake sugars, most of them probably at the end of the podcast. That's an excellent documentary to watch. You don't need to eat sugar unless you know your sugar is low. You know, when you're diabetic, and that's the only time you should eat really, really stuff that's high in sugar. Because your body can make sugar out of proteins also. It just takes a little bit more time. Your body can get energy out of fat. It just takes a little bit more time. The late Dr. Bernard Jensen, I love his books, once said, white sugar and white flour are the greatest arthritis producers known and the greatest acid producers known in our body. Remember, our bodies don't like an acid state. Watch my podcast on my why. I believe that's when I explained the acid state of our bodies. At least natural sugar has least side effects, or does it? Consuming about 2 teaspoons, that's it, of sugar changes your blood chemistry and the body is no longer in balance. Sugar increases constipation, it increases cravings, it gives you bloating, it gives you flatulence, which is gas, and it gives you inflammation throughout your whole body. It promotes cavities, bad breath, low energy if your sugar level is low. It gives you irritability, and it gives you aggression if you don't have it or if your sugar levels are too high. Sugar can cause headaches, reoccurring headaches, infections that just don't go away, obesity, malnutrition because you're not absorbing, and I'll tell you that later on, and it also gives you dry skin. It affects every single organ system in the body. It also makes your glands work harder, and it causes increasing inflammation throughout the whole body. Remember I said dairy was the most inflammatory thing? Here's your sugar, absolutely. So do you have chronic inflammation? Do you have arthritis, aches and pains all the time? Can't get up, hips hurt? Inflammation, sugar. Sugar also messes up the lining of our blood vessels in our hearts, right? In our blood vessels throughout our body. It also messes up our GI tubes. It also messes up our lymph tubes. That's not good. Sugar disrupts the functioning of all of our organs. It disturbs the function of our skin, all of our body systems, every single one. Basically, it mummifies you from the inside out while you're still alive, right? It mummifies you. That's what I say it does. High insulin levels too. Remember, we get the insulin from the pancreas when we eat sugar, so we can use it as so we can use the sugar. But high insulin levels are key factors for heart disease and high blood pressure. High insulin levels inhibit the release of growth hormones. And if you inhibit the release of growth hormones, it depresses your immune system. Your immune system, your microbiome, right? Sugar also increases your blood pressure. The sugar can suppress your immune system for hours after you eat or drink it, for hours. Usually food is digested in about 8 hours, but sugar changes the enzymes in your digestive system so you can't break certain things down. All sugars slow down your digestion. All sugars kill your beneficial gut flora, your microbiome, your immune system, your new-founded organ system, right? Because it feeds the bad bacteria first. So that also disrupts everything. Your bad bacteria is up here, good bacteria is down here. And it tells you what to eat. More sugar, more crappy food, right? And if our immune system is low, our body's survival is, The secretion of gastric juices need to break down proteins. And if you eat something like that with sugar, digestion is almost stopped. If you eat animal products mixed with sugar, it can be held up in the stomach until the meat putrefies and creates a lot of problems. Basically, the result is going to be foul-smelling gas, flatulence, farting, whatever, foul-smelling stools. You're going to get bloating. People get heartburn, and they think it's from something else. No, it's from the sugar that you ate, and you ate it with the protein. You can't do that. So again, when you eat and drink processed food or animal products with a sugar in it, it could delay movement or delay your digestion for 2 or 3 hours. And if the stuff sits in your intestines, you can get leaky gut, and that means it can get anywhere in your body. Think of all the GI problems, right? And people are on all these meds, and all you gotta do is change your diet. You have to change what you're eating, change your input. The nutrient density of foods is also decreased if you have it with sugar, especially if you have it with artificial sweeteners. Listen for my podcast on fake sugars. That's what it's going to be called. And that means if you eat sugar with good, healthy foods, you might not absorb all your vitamins and minerals. Be careful of the salad dressings that you have, right? There's a lot of sugar in some of those. So preserved and processed food and foods with sugar in them favor the low absorption of our nutrients for our body. You need your nutrients. You need them if you want to age gracefully, right? Let's talk about cancer. You are feeding your young cancer cells with sugars that you consume. That's all cancer eats. Chemo, radiation, and inflammation all increase your glucose levels, right? Cancer cannot use any kind of fat to grow. It doesn't use your proteins to grow. It needs sugar. Whether that's sugar, or whether that's starchy carbohydrate sugar, it doesn't matter. Cancer cells are unlike any normal cell. They're unlike any cell. They have 10 times more insulin receptors on their cellular surface, which enables the cancer to gorge themselves and grab all the sugar and your nutrients, or grab all the glucose and your nutrients that are coming into the bloodstream before you get them. Just a little raise in your blood sugar decreases your white blood cells' ability to break down cancer cells. So then your immune system goes down because your white blood cells don't work like they're supposed to. And that's our immune system, our white blood cells, right? The lowest survival rate in cancer patients is among those who have the highest blood sugar levels. And I'm sorry that your doctors don't tell you that. I'm sure some of them do. Now they're actually considered cancer to be a metabolic disease, right? Cancer cells go after the sugar first, right? That's how they find it. A PET scan actually adds glucose to the marker. And then that marker and that sugar goes right to where the cancer is, because that's what the cancer wants to eat. That's how they find it. I promise. And I'm so sorry that your doctors didn't tell you that, but now you know, and now you can spread the word, right? The fermentation of glucose or sugar in the cytoplasm of the cell, which means in the cell, but not in the mitochondria. That's what needs the glucose, is our mitochondria. That's our powerhouse of the cell. That's where we get our energy, right? But if it's broken inside the cell and not in the mitochondria, it actually causes lactic acid fermentation. What did I say about lactic acid in one of my previous podcasts? It causes breaking down of our cells. It causes breaking down of our bodies, of our lives. Sugar is so, so bad. Eating foods that turn into sugar quickly also increases the production of free radicals. Watch my podcast coming on free radicals and oxidative stress coming up too. Your mitochondria, with exposure to oxidative stress and oxidative damage, drops by 30 to 40%. You need your mitochondria. That's your powerhouse. That's where you get all your ATP and your energy. And this is with any kind of sugar, even if it's the good sugar, and I'll name those later on. If you eat too much protein, it actually makes your liver has to process new glucose, right? Because you can't use your protein right away. And you store it as dimples. You store it as dimples in your booty, absolutely. Glycogen is actually the stored sugar in the body, and it's mostly filled with water. Glycogen is stored in our skeletal muscles, and it's stored in the liver. But the liver can only store about 150 grams of glycogen or sugar. The rest of it becomes extra subcutaneous globules. Elevated sugar levels can give people a fatty liver too. Even our children. Yes, it's normal for your liver to contain some fat, but if the fat level gets too high, your liver cannot regulate your blood sugar anymore, and your fat gets stored in your liver in the form of triglycerides. How many people have high cholesterol? Comment below. And they tell you, you got to stop your diet from high triglycerides and high cholesterols. No, high triglycerides does not come from eating fatty foods or protein. It comes from eating too many carbohydrates and excess sugar. That's where the high triglycerides come from. Also, excess alcohol, which is a carbohydrate. It gets burned up differently than any other thing. gets stored in the body as triglycerides or fat. So sugar and alcohol, or carbs and alcohol, could increase your cholesterol levels, your triglyceride levels, and it could increase your waistline. That is not what you want. So let's talk about our children, our babies, our teenagers now. They're consuming lots of sugary foods and sugary drinks daily, at home, at school, at outings, on the weekends, during sports activities. How much do you think your children are eating and drinking? At grandma's house? Sorry, Mom. Stop making cookies for Devin. I'm just kidding. You can make some of those cookies, absolutely. Every once in a while, it's okay if your microbiome is balanced, right? I read a few articles linking sugar to our behaviors, and especially our children's behaviors. Actually, a couple of them. It increases aggression. It gives them difficulty focusing in school and homework and even other work, doesn't matter. It increases violence at home. It increases violence at school. It increases sadness and depression. It can give their children and adults too, I'm just talking about children right now, withdrawal symptoms. It gives them mood swings, us also, easily to become addicted to other things, and even thoughts of suicide. Shut the front door. And this is still a controversial topic. Actually, processed and sugary foods and drinks have actually made it overseas. So now it's not just the American people. Who do you think is actually giving us the arguments? Big food companies? Just like the tobacco companies back in the day, right? It doesn't cause problems for people. Neither does sugar. So what are your children drinking when you're not around? After their initial withdrawal, when you take the sugar away from them, and I have no idea what that time is, it's going to be different for everybody, but removing the sugar from our children's diet does improve behaviors. Studies have shown increased learning abilities. They're calmer, they're more focused, they sleep better. Just try it for a month. Just try it. You will thank me. So we need to get this information out to the public, and we need to get it out fast. Have everybody watch this podcast. Please love, like, subscribe, and share, and tell everybody, please, please. And then we have high fructose corn syrup, or corn solids. We know the name, so they've changed the name to so many different ones. It's a form of processed fructose and glucose, but it's mostly fructose. Remember I said that is not good. High fructose corn syrup precedes sugar, and it is in most of our processed foods. They said 74% or something. Bull crap. It's in more than that, especially in foods that say low fat, low sugar, low cholesterol, renal diets, diabetes diets, baby and elder drinks, organic foods, healthy foods, foods that are supposed to be good for you. They have high fructose in them. And high fructose corn syrup has many, many, many names, like I said before. Watch Fed Up. They will tell you most of them. Anything with the word corn in it, just be careful. Anything with the word fructose in it, just be careful. If it's added in, no, it's not good. You got to be careful. You're going to do your body such a world of greatness, not good, a world of greatness, just to get that poison out of your diet. High fructose corn syrup is the enemy, and many people have said that, and I'm going to repeat it. And it actually deserves its own podcast. So stay tuned for my high fructose corn syrup podcast. That's actually coming up, I believe, next week. I need to get all this sugar shit out of my system and start with other podcasts coming up. Remember, your body has to work really hard getting rid of toxins and poisons from the bad foods and the wrong food combinations that we're eating. Especially sugar, the sugars. Remember, sugar should be eaten by itself. And I'm not just saying a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of sugar. I'm talking about fruit. That's our sugar, right? Eating a protein with a sugar starch, like I said, slows down peristalsis. Eating animal products slows down peristalsis, and that's just a different word for our digestion. It makes your GI system more acidy. Our body doesn't like that. And your microbiome is not balanced. You have your bad bacteria up here now. They're getting fed first. They're going to eat everything first, right? I guess your cancer cells, because everybody has them, and your bad bacteria in your body and your stomach are fighting over them, right? So here's some poor sugar protein combinations, which you're going to be upset about. Ice cream, right? Sugar, milk, and eggs. Baked beans, they add sugar to it. Milkshakes, chocolate milk. So sorry, so sorry. Fruit with eggs, no. Fruit with cheese, fruit with meat or starch. A wine with your steak, a baked potato and steak. All those things that we eat all the time, right? You don't even think about it. It just doesn't get digested. It sits there and putrefies, right? Comment more below. So starch and a sugar with a protein. What did I miss? Let me know so I can add it onto my podcast. Absolutely. Can you read the labels on the back of the foods that you and your family eat? And I'm not talking about what's in the box, right? I'll teach you. Oxygen is also a powerful oxidizing agent that reacts with the sugar and fat that you're eating. But eating sugar and carbs actually increases your oxidative stress. Again, sugar is oxidized when it's broken down in the body. That increases your oxidative stress. That makes you age faster. That can give you diseases and illness also, right? If you change your fuel to ketones, they burn cleaner. Not all ketones oxidize either. It's only about 84%. You just excrete the rest of them, right? Through your lungs as acetone and then out your urine. Sugar actually messes with your brain, like I said before, with our children, your mentality, your mood, your endurance. And that's been proven many, many, many times over. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. Absolutely. And the desire for sugar is real. You're not just addicted, so is your gut. It tells you, you gotta have that. Oh my God, you'll never have it again. The constant hunger and the need to eat is believed by your body because your microbiome says so, right? Who's the boss? Your microbiome. The human brain needs fat and cholesterol for proper functioning. And it can be fueled by either glucose or sugar. Like we're all taught, your brain only loves sugar, but it can be fueled by ketones also. The brain loves sugar, glucose, ketones, and cholesterol for its food. 4 things, not just sugar. Your brain actually consumes up to 20% of your total cholesterol intake. Your brain is a lot of fat and a lot of cholesterol, absolutely. The brain also uses ketone metabolism during survival times, which we don't really have anymore, thank goodness. But during fasting times, it uses ketones, right? Those diets, listen for my diet lecture too, that's coming up. Again, ketones can provide fuel for your brain, and it actually reduces the production of insulin. Remember, insulin is made when you eat carbohydrates or sugar. If you don't eat that many carbs or sugar, you don't need that much insulin. And it doesn't matter what kind of sugar. Sugar. It makes your pancreas make the insulin. Ketones actually lower inflammation levels in your body too. And what does sugar do? It makes your inflammation levels go up. Chronic inflammation and acute inflammation, it doesn't matter. Insulin resistance in the liver leads to the development of type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance in the brain leads to the development of dementia and Alzheimer's diseases because the brain cannot receive that primary fuel, which is glucose. So change your fuel, people. Look this stuff up. Change your fuel. Even if you're diabetic, you just do it slowly. And you let your practitioner know, I'm cutting down on my sugars. We need to keep an eye on my medications, right? Remember, sugar should be eaten by itself. Fruit should be eaten by itself. Desserts should be eaten by themselves if you're going to have them. Just don't ever do it on an empty stomach because that just actually makes you crave more, even if you're full. Remember that cycle we're talking about? Even if you're full, your body still says, I need to eat more. So I've actually read the labels on all my foods pretty much, and I have a whole bunch of labels to share with you guys too during the label lecture. I've read my snacks, I've read my alcohol, pisses me off. I've read my chapsticks, my lotions, now my sugar scrubs. My sugar scrub is actually a salt scrub now, because if I shouldn't eat it, why should I wash with it, right? It still gets absorbed into your system. Did you know that sugar is 8 times more addicting than cocaine? And now the same effects show up on MRIs with comparison to heroin. Happy, everybody's happy. And you crave it more. artificial sweeteners and high fructose corn syrup could be about 500 times sweeter than sugar. So yes, you become addicted. Yes, your gut can become addicted and then start you in that cycle that you can't get out of unless you stop it. Yes, you can. Sugar is linked to compulsive overeating. Yes, you can stop it. Yes, you can. With the help of me, your friends and family, just let them know what you're doing. The best thing that I did, I just don't have it in my house. You know what? That's the best thing. Also, your hormones can change your sugar levels. Did you know that? So high glucose levels could be because of your menstrual cycle, your menstrual hormones. So right before you start your period, women, ladies, girls, your sugar is going to be up. If you're sick with an illness, it rises your steroid hormone. That could increase your glucose. Stress, your adrenaline and cortisol triggers the manufacture of glucose. So it can help your body during times of stress, right? Flight or fight. The more stressed out you are, the more your body is going to crave sugar, and the more your body's going to crave fat too. Talk about your diet sodas. Oh yes, we are talking about your diet sodas with no calories and no sugar. They work in the hypothalamus of the brain. Initially, they may curb your appetite, but the sugars are fake sugars. So they can tell you there's no sugar in it, but yes, there is. And fake sugars stimulate your hunger, and you will eat more, and probably bad things because you're drinking a diet soda and you think that you're doing great, and you will gain weight. Diet sodas and the artificial sweeteners have positive reinforcing effects in your brain like other foods. Remember I said cheese has something that makes you feel happy? Chocolate, alcohol makes you feel happy. Even drugs of abuse make you feel happy, which means we as humans are going to work darn hard to make sure that we can get as much as possible. Watch my podcast on artificial sweeteners coming up in a couple weeks also. This podcast actually had to be broken up into 2 other ones. That's how important it is, right? So whey and casein, which is the milk proteins, yeast and soy and MSG all have sugar in them also. It's not the sodium that's that bad for you in the MSG, it's actually that sugar, right? The glutamate is the thing that is bad. Glutamate is actually natural to a plant, but it's bad for us. Yeah, so rewatch my dairy lecture and understand what's wrong with dairy. We just can't break it down. And now we're finding out that it has sugars that we definitely can't break down. And everybody's like, MSG, be careful of that. The sodium. No, it's not the sodium. It's the sugar. Our body can't use it and it's bad for us. Sugary food starts with breakfast. And that's how you start your day, right? In 1949 is when they actually started adding sugar to cereals, right? And now it's in all breakfast foods. Pop-Tarts, breakfast drinks. I'm not even going to go through them all. It's just so upsetting down that whole dang aisle in the grocery store. And now it's in many other processed foods. So it has nothing, no nutritional benefits at all. It just makes the food taste better so that we'll eat it, okay? And they put on the label, oh, it comes from real fruit to give you that healthy choice. No, it's not healthy. Do not drink juices unless you juiced it yourself, okay? Eat the fruit because you get the benefit of the sugar, which is like the inside of the apple. It's your candy, right? And then you eat the skin, which helps your probiotics, helps your microbiome, your immune system, because you're giving it fiber, right? It's the food for your microbiome. Orange juice has about 48 grams of sugar, 12 teaspoons. Apple juice, about 52 grams of sugar. Lemonade, 67 grams of sugar. Not good for you. Juice it yourself. That would be so awesome. Alcohol, a small amount of alcohol absorbed in the stomach lining, and the rest has to be broken down in the liver because alcohol is actually a toxin, right? So it kind of is in the first line to go. If you're eating food with it too, your body doesn't break down the food. Your body breaks down the alcohol. The liver breaks down the alcohol, right? It's a carb. It's a simple carb. It actually drops your blood sugar, like I said, because the liver is breaking down the alcohol instead of the food that you're eating, right? The whole food process gets slowed down. It decreases your digestive system. Everything slow down. Alcohol actually makes you dehydrated. It has lots of calories, and it kills off your friendly bacteria. Wine has sugar. It's mostly sugar. It's great. 1.2 grams, right? Sweetened wine has about 7 grams of sugar. Beer has none. No sugar. But the grains are broken down like sugar. And most of the grains, if it's made in the United States, is a GMO grain. Whiskey, vodka, tequila, no sugar. But what do you drink it with? That's the problem. In our nation, 38% of people are overweight. 40% are obese. 30 million people have type 2 diabetes. 88 million have pre-diabetes. How much sugar do we consume in a day now? 17 teaspoons to 24 teaspoons a day. 57 to 130 pounds per year per person. Sugar can add an extra 270 to 500 extra calories a day and bigger waistlines. And that's not just drinking it, that's just eating it. Drinking it is even more. Remember, for moderation, the intake of sugar should be about 5 to 9 teaspoons. That's it. 4 grams of sugar is about 1 teaspoon. The daily limits, they say, for women are 24 grams or 6 teaspoons, and men should have 36 grams or 9 teaspoons. Children 2 years old and younger should have no sugar at all, but their average is actually 5.5 to 7 grams per day. What? 2-year-olds should not have sugar. Did you hear that, parents? They should not. Your blood sugar should be an average between 70 and 120. Higher if you check your sugar right after you eat, and if you're a diabetic, sometimes it's higher too. Around 130 is okay after you eat. 160 is elevated. A fasting sugar should be between 70 and 85, and especially less than 100, right? If you're a diabetic, like I said, your sugars can run a little bit higher. Why? They don't have to. It's because of what you're eating, right? And you're making your pancreas work harder. And if your pancreas can't do it anymore, you're going to have pills and you're going to have insulin, and it's never going to stop. Most people and their families start their day with sugar, with breakfast, right? Write down everything that you eat for breakfast and then figure it all out. Figure out the sugar contents and change that. Comment below. Please start out your limited number of days on this earth healthier, right? Try some berries. And then in about 30 minutes or so, try some protein and some good fats. Look them up right below what you would have. That's what you need to eat, not cereals, not Pop-Tarts. So these are not healthy choices for your sugar. Anything with a syrup, unless it's organic maple syrup and you just use a little bit, right? Anything that says dextrose, lactose, sucrose, if it's added, right? Maltose, dextrin, malted syrups, starches, cellulose, and these are kind of found in breads, and cellulose is found in potatoes and starches, right? Sugars, in juices, they add more sugar to juices, even though they say 5%. Read the back, it's not 5%. Refined grains, even whole grains turn to sugar, right? Because they're kind of GMO and they're not the same as they used to be. Definitely cereals, rice, pasta. I said these are only some of the things some of the sugars that are bad for you. And remember, if there's no fiber with the sugar, it's definitely not a good choice at all. So what's the best sweetener for you? What's God's sugar? It's fruit, right? It's fruit, but you got to eat the whole thing if you're allowed to have the skin. And it's so, so sweet if you eat it during its season, not GMO time, right? Watch my GMO podcast coming soon. You're going to flip out on that one too. So here are some fruits that are low sugared and some fruits that are high sugared for you, especially if you have cancer or stuff, you still want to eat some sugar, but nothing that's high. So low sugar fruits are actually avocados, peaches, watermelon, and I didn't believe that. I looked that up, apples, and the berries. So strawberries, blackberries. The highest of the berries is blueberries, but at least it's lower sugar than most. And of course, citrus, lemon, limes, grapefruit, oranges, melons, which are the honeydew, and then the cantaloupes. Those are the fruits that have lower sugar, excuse me. So the high sugar fruits, so you'd be surprised, bananas, Figs, of course, those are always sweet. Pomegranates, cherries, mangoes. Oh man, I can slam some mangoes, let me tell you what. And of course, grapes. Those are the highest ones. And pears. Any fruit that is dried, it actually has more sugar per volume, right? For some reason, the dehydration process adds more sugar, so be careful. But they have a lot of nutrients for you too. Simple carbs, sugar fruit, complex carbs and starches, veggies that are fresh, beans, natural whole grains. These also have sugar, but they provide dietary fiber, right? And if there's fiber in it, the glucose or the sugar level takes a little bit more time to rise in your body, and the insulin can be released at a slower rate. So these are good for you, but only in moderation. If you love chocolate, use carob instead of chocolate. It has B vitamins in it. It has magnesium and calcium and pectin, right? Pectin is actually a fiber. Has no caffeine in it. It's low fat, low sodium, and it also has a little bit of protein, right? Eventually you won't want the chocolate anymore. It won't taste the same, right? For my sweeteners, I use honey, which is actually mostly fructose, but it has a lot of other benefits to it. Blackstrap molasses, absolutely I do. Thank you, Devin, in the ER. And I use real maple syrup. Trying to find grade B maple syrup, which I can't. All I can find is A, but those are the sweeteners that I use. These have antioxidants in them, they have vitamins, they have prebiotics. Look up all the nutrients. Compare it to sugar. Compare those to high fructose corn syrup and compare them to the fake sugars. Or listen to my podcast coming up soon. I'll just explain it all to you. And then look up what you can and teach me also, right? They say a little sugar in moderation is okay. But who does that? What does your microbiome tell you? Sometimes you don't have a strong choice, remember? Your microbiome tells you, we should have some more of that. Well, let's try this. You're drinking a diet soda, so we can have the hamburger with French fries. Be careful of your dog and cat foods too, because they put sugar in those too. They put it in there to keep the bacteria away when the food can get moist. So sugar kind of acts like a binder to make the water inaccessible to the bacteria. So check out your dog and cat food. They don't like sugar. They should not have sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup. And with that, those dog and cat foods can sit on the shelf for a long time, right? That's how a lot of sugar is in our processed food, because it can last on the shelves for a very long time. For our low-fat diets, good-for-you food, they decrease the fat and add more sugar because they say fat is bad. It's not as bad as they say. Watch my Extra Sub-Q podcast coming up soon. They also put sugar in your medications, so be careful. Read the back of your labels. Was glucose added? I read meclizine for my friend. I got her some. And I was floored when I saw that glucose was the second ingredient in this. What? Fluctuating sugar levels all day long from what you eat causes inflammation throughout the whole body and possibly starts you with some insulin resistance. Remember, all these things could lead to diabetes. They can lead to heart disease. They can block your blood vessels with plaque and cholesterol and fat and sugar that just kind of keeps it all stuck together, right? And most of you are going to say, I'm not a diabetic. I don't need to worry about sugar. I can eat and drink what I want. But how do you feel throughout the day? Write it down. Ask yourself. Write it in your little special book, right? Are you tired some of the time? That 3 o'clock slump come? Do you have more energy some of the time during the day? Are you moody? Are you happy all the time and then slumping down? Are you grumpy or sad all the time? Are you not sensitive to your own insulin and don't even know it? Any of those things, guess what? That's your blood sugar fluctuating. What are you eating? What are you eating? What is your cycle? You know, companies hire scientists to taste and test their foods for a bliss point. And that's what they try to achieve with everything they eat. When you first put it in your mouth, you want to say, oh my gosh, I need more of that, right? This is excellent. something that hits you quickly and fast. So we say, yes, absolutely, this is great. I'm going to have it again. So what does a customer crave? What is their bliss point? What is your bliss point? I've asked so many people. I've read so many things now. Am I trying to win a losing battle for us? Can I just sit back and not tell you guys what I know about sugar? Are you going to do anything about it? I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I sure hope you read these documentaries and read the books and learn for yourself. They've been trying to fight these sugar companies and these big food companies since before 1999. They've had several conferences with the big food companies, CEOs, and saying, hey, you know what? People are getting sicker. They're going to start blaming us. They've had conferences with the scientists that are testing the sugar and adding more crap to our food. But now people are starting to complain about their health. Our children are starting to get sick and have adult onset diseases. Is it the sugar? Are they going to do anything about it? They've been fighting them for a long time. You know what? Pillsbury, General Mills, Kraft, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Mars, Pepsi, Nabisco, Nestle, Kellogg. Comment more below. Big food companies. Even though statistics show what is actually going on with sugar and fake sugars and high fructose corn syrup and the sweetening of our asses, they would always say that sugar is necessary. You know, maybe it's the fat and the salt that is in these products that are making people sick. It can't possibly be the sugar. You need sugar. You need it, or the people aren't going to eat the food, right? At one of these conferences, one of the psychologists said, after all, who among us chooses food that is actually based on a nutritional status, a good nutritional status? They pick up things off the shelf knowing that they've had it before and that they actually want a great taste, a good flavor with sensory satisfaction to what they eat. And now it's messing up our children. Yes, a lot of us do want stuff with great nutritional value, and that's what we are moving towards. I guarantee it. Where now our children are getting sick, and more adults are getting sick. And we're getting sick because of what we're eating. I promise. Environment, I promise. We do need to think about the nutrition, and we are, of the food and drinks that we're putting in our mouths. The nutrition that we have for our skins also. What is in your lotions? What is in your makeup? It's all up to you, adults and parents. Even if you don't have children, it's still up to you to change things that are going on. One thing that the food giants did was try not to draw attention to the sugar in their food products. So what did they do? They took the sugar out of the title, thinking that that was going to be okay. And one of the things was sugar frosted flakes. Now they're just called frosted flakes. Some of them have decreased the sugar that is in some of their foods, but still, do you get 9 teaspoons a day or less? It's just like when big tobacco was on trial. They actually made everybody believe that tobacco was not doing any harm to any people. And look what the frick happened. It's the same thing with sugar and high fructose corn syrup and fake sugars. And they don't have to tell you, right? All they care about when they say sugar is sucrose, right? They've had several conferences about sugar, and still look what's happening. Look at our American people. Look at our children. It's up to you. It's up to us to decide. So what I've learned by reading books and articles and reading arguments and watching the documentaries and watching the webinars and asking questions to people, there have been plenty of fights with these big food companies. From doctors, from dentists, yes, from the government, from legislatures, from the CDC, from the FDA, from the WHO, the World Health Organization. from health management people as far as the sugar content and the types of sugars put in our food and what's changing. My heart's beating fast. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. As all these people and these companies go after the big food companies, still nothing really is done. And now we have worst sugar out there. The fake sugars. What's happening, people? We need to learn those. We need to learn how to read the labels and just don't buy it. Like I said at the beginning, I think this was the hardest podcast that I've done so far. The most annoying, the scariest. Who am I to help you guys and change anything, right? And what I've found is astounding, worrisome, sad. It's outrageous. It makes me so upset. And still they won't do anything. Because you know what? Pharmaceutical companies are going to make money because they have to make medications because we're getting sicker. It's up to us because now they're getting into other third world countries that have no idea. We just have to say no. We have to take a stand. We have to spread the word. We have to stop buying that crap. Sugar, they have found out, is one of the most powerful negative aging and illness inputs that we can put in our body. Please break that habit. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm sorry I got upset. I'm sorry if I cussed. But you know what? Wait till the high fructose corn syrup lecture come in. Love, like, subscribe, and share, and get this word out, please. Email me from my website, which is humorhealthandhappiness.com. And I will send you a copy of my reference page, which is 7 or 8 pages. But that gives you the books that I've read. That gives you the webinars. And I'll also print some down below for you to get right on there and start making yourself healthy. Start making our children healthy. And if you have infants up to 2 years old, and I would say 4 or 5 years old, don't give them sugar. Don't give them the fake sugar. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening again today. My name is Chatty Cathy. Our new saying is love, learn, and take control. And yes, we can. And yes, we will. Because I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until most people are healthy and most people are teaching other people to be healthy also. Thank you so much. Sorry I got upset. I love you guys. I promise I do. I'm not lying to you. Look this stuff up. Comment below. Thank you so much for all the love and everything that you guys send me every week. I truly appreciate it. And I will see you next Wednesday when we talk about the enemy. But it's only the enemy if you let it, right? And we won't. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.